These two chapters represent a critical moment in Israel's foundational story. Their failure to trust God at the very moment when his promises to them were about to be fulfilled results in a devastating but at the same time carefully measured punishment. Those who were not worthy of inheriting these promises in the end will not. They will perish in the wilderness. They become for us an example to persevere in the promises of God, which Hebrews 3-4 explains. In Numbers 3:13, the spies are sent out, composed of leaders from each tribe. The two heroes are Caleb and Joshua, here initially called Hoshea, until Moses changes his name in verse 16. The spies that go throughout the land bring back good and bad news. The good news is that the land is indeed excellent. The bad news is that it is well occupied. This is not surprising, since any land worth living in is bound to have inhabitants who have fought hard to keep it. The people are described as strong, the towns fortified and large, and not only this, but the descendants of Anak are also there, descendants of the Nephilim from Genesis 6. This report might be accurate, but what to make of it? Caleb speaks to the congregation in verse 30. He tells them that they should go immediately and take the land, for they are well capable. In the next 3 verses, the remaining spies contradict Caleb, saying that in fact we are not capable, and emphasizing the great size of the current occupants. They also say that the land devours those who dwell in it, presumably not saying it is uninhabitable, but continuing to bewail the overwhelming strength of its owners. This is described in verse 32 as an unfavourable report. It is not that they have raised problems. Caleb did not say the inhabitants were not strong. He just said, we can beat them. His version of the report was not hiding from reality by minimizing or dismissing real issues or difficulties, but he responded to them with a different attitude. This is in short form in 13:31, where he tries to rally the faith of Israel, but in 14:6-9, along now with Joshua, who has not yet been mentioned, Caleb gives a fuller rationale for his confidence. The land is indeed exceedingly good, flowing with milk and honey. If God is pleased with them, he will give it to them. Caleb's thought seems to be that God promised a good land just like this. Now here it is. Why would he fail to give it to them? If the land was bad, they might have cause to wonder, but it is indeed wonderful. They then plead with the people not to rebel against the Lord. If a few verses earlier it seemed as though Caleb was relying on their own military might, here there is no mention of such confidence. God will give it to them if they only trust him. There is no need to fear these people, for their protection has been removed. They might still have great size and high walls, but this means nothing if you understand the spiritual realities behind what can be seen. In fact, they are no more than bread for them, meaning that the Israelites will devour them, rather than the other way round, as predicted by the spies. The Lord is with us, they conclude, which of course is obvious from the entire way they march and camp, which is around the tabernacle. But the Israelite confidence in God has melted away completely. God's initial response to Moses in 14:11 is in the form of a lament. He begins, as the psalmist often does, with a groan. How long will this people despise me? And how long will they refuse to believe in me, in spite of all the signs that I have done among them? One commentator is worth quoting at this point. God does not remain coolly unaffected in the face of these developments, but the judgment that follows is spoken not with the icy indifference of a judge, but with the mixed sorrow and anger of a suitor who has been rejected. Again, as in Exodus, Moses acts as intercessor to save Israel, but the reason for doing so is not because he does not understand the Lord's cause. It is again a concern for the Lord's honour among the nations. They will misinterpret this situation and think that God was not able to overcome their gods. God relents. His first proposition was to annihilate Israel and start again with Moses. Now he will only destroy this faithful generation, referring to the census which started this book. His judgment is based closely on Israel's sin. He alludes now to the people's complaining at the beginning of chapter 14. You want to go to Egypt? Off you go. You want to die in the wilderness? There you will lie forever. Our little ones are in danger? You have made them shepherds of nowhere. You think God will not go into battle with you? Indeed he will not. The horror of their mistake stirs the Israelites into action, but it is too late, and now they are sinning in a new way. Moses would restrain them, but this generation cannot be restrained. They go up to battle without the ark and without Moses, and they are given the consequences of their faithless imagination. They said they would be defeated. They were. All is not lost. Caleb and Joshua and the next generation will enter the land, but not for a long time, until the judgment on this wicked generation is complete.